Sarah Trumbull. I'm the founder and CEO of the Job Applicant Perspective, the first anonymous crowdsourced hiring reputation system. Like anonymous Yelp, in a world of professionally mandated fine dining with no house department, no FDA, no requirement that anything on the menu has to exist, or even if it did exist, that it would have to be served to a job seeker, and multiple reputable journalistic institutions, including the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, that it very much doesn't. So, yeah, you should stop by my website if you're into this sort of thing, because, right? So there's that. But this is a level of go-to-market awareness. If you're not convinced, or you also want to understand your experience, or look at it from a different lens, this is for you. So I'm going to read from a blog post. I have social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. TikTok's I'm the most on, Blue Sky, and Substack outside of my website, because I understand people are freaked out about, I want to review their employer, I don't want to be on the website, maybe you'll fear, I don't know. I don't know everybody's fear. Maybe I project this, but I made a Substack as well for just a go-to-market awareness kind of thing. You wouldn't believe it, but apparently when you're running, billion-dollar shifts, paradigm shifts, you're supposed to do a bunch of go-to-market awareness. And I'm going to bootstrap budget, so I'm sorry it looks like an AI, but this is actually a step forward for me, so I'm proud of myself. Anyway, I'll get to the article. This is called "The Labor Market Used to Help You Get Hired. Now it makes more when you don't." Once getting hired was the point. Newspapers ran job ads not out of generosity, but because they were paid to connect real people to get real work. Their business model relied on accurate information reaching people, reaching everyone, whether they bought the paper themselves or read a copy passed down by a parent, aunt, or neighbor. If the listings were fake, job seekers stopped reading. They told their friends, others stopped reading too. The paper lost trust and revenue. Trust mattered, and trust made money. Then hiring moved online and everything flipped. Job seekers were no longer the customer. They became the product. Their attention became unpaid fuel for $1 billion ecosystem. And platforms discovered something far more profitable than solving unemployment: prolonging it. Who this is for? If you've ever been stuck in an endless loop of applications, ghosting, and urgent listings that never lead anywhere, this is for you. If you're a recruiter or employer watching the signal-to-noise ratio collapse, this is for you too. And if you're a journalist or policymaker or economist wondering why hiring feels broken from every angle, this is the structural breakdown no one's told you. A system that now profits from your struggle. Let's be blunt, major job platforms make more money the longer you stay unhired. Clicks, paid views, premium posts, resume database access, they don't earn revenue by solving the problem. They earn revenue by keeping you engaged in the problem. It works for either end of the market. Realistically, the labor market is the modern equivalent of the farming era's fields or the hunting era's forests. It's where you go to access food, shelter, healthcare, and hope for a better yield in the future. It is financial security, socioeconomic mobility. And when job seekers get desperate, engagement goes up. And when the product fails them, no one cares anymore. They have no friends or family to complain to, no shared networks to stop reading the paper so the paper stops misbehaving. That's not a bug. That's the business model. One doesn't have to operate with great malice to do great harm. If you've ever been job seeking in the last decade, you might feel like the system had to be designed to hurt you. But consider this: what if the problem wasn't malice, but indifference? It's kind of worse, isn't it? A lack of consideration altogether, a framework that never included you in the first place because it was financially profitable not to. What got lost? The inversion started when employers brought the hiring market online the way they thought it worked, from their perspective. Get it? Not the real mechanics, not the whispered wisdom, and not the reputational trust job seekers relied on. They didn't ask newspapers what they were forgetting. Why would they? They were replacing them. They didn't ask job seekers or the public. Why would they? They were the experts, the knowers. Job seekers weren't expert in this kind of work, right? Yeah, wrong. Like anything, it's not always about being incorrect. It's often about being incomplete, about a perspective that was openly undervalued for so long that the insight that it had to offer was lost entirely in the shift. It's not that certain insight, qualities, or work doesn't have value. It's that in certain cultural, economic, morality systems, we don't want to value it because that might mean we have to change something about ourselves. For example, if you valued height, you might find Simone Biles inherently unvaluable because her profound skill based partly on her lack of it. If you didn't want to be working in a grocery store, you might just justify devaluing people stocking shelves as unskilled, and then find out when COVID hit that in actuality their work was so valuable they had to be required to do it for the sake of society. Further examples might be in elder care or trash collecting. Cultural value and financially valued can be much more interconnected than you think on the surface. In reality, the insight of the vulnerable in the age of the internet brings immense financial value. Evidence reputation systems that exist in all other marketplaces. But that wasn't a lesson that was brought into the design of the online hiring market. So here's what got lost. Job seekers were stakeholders in the old system. The newspaper lost money if it misled them. Reputation was not officially discussed, but it was fully present. An unofficial oral network existed, a whisper network of patterns and survival skills. But when job seeker silence shifted from a comfort employers assumed to an entitlement that the platform's designed for, all the unofficial safeguards were lost. And when no one rebuilt the trust layer, platforms began operating in a vacuum. So what replaced accountability? SEO spam, algorithmic sorting, engagement without outcome. Job seekers waste time, employers waste money, platforms profit either way. Even if job seekers still had a whisper network, they couldn't use it. The new actors don't show their faces. The explosion of intermediaries. Now we have job seekers, job platforms, LinkedIn, the social media platform you perform the right attitude of professional job hunting, sub-job platforms, sites that copy-paste your listing and resell your data, recruiters, sub-recruiters, often third-party or offshore sourcing agents, CRM systems tracking your data as lead, not as a person, ATS systems, automated sorting tools, maybe the initial HR rep at that point. And that's just the official actors. For the unofficial ones, we have other posts. Each one of these layers adds distance and erodes visibility. You don't know who's seeing you or who's ignoring you or whether a real job ad exists at all. You can't tell in that line of telephone which one of the players screwed up. In the newspaper era, job seekers were customers too. Classified ads were a major revenue stream worth nearly $20 billion a year in the US at their peak in early 2000s. And that was according to Atlantic. Newspapers lost money if they deceived readers because trust and readership were linked. Whether you were a user of the paper or a buyer of the paper, their end game required everyone had access to only accurate info. Today, job platforms that gatekeep access to job boards, ATS systems, and recruiting AI make up to $40 to $60 billion global industry. That's from SNS Insider. If you include staffing and search firms, the total global recruitment sector exceeds $600 billion a year. That's from Workwell Global. But unlike newspapers, today's platforms openly serve only one side, employers. They leaned into the idea that since the job seeker was a user, not a buyer, they didn't require customer support, training, or transparency. Platforms expected plumbers, engineers, heart surgeons, and IT specialists to act as fully trained HR professionals, but gave them none of the tools. And that shift created a silent crisis. Platforms are only accountable to their buyer, not their user. That means job seekers can be fed misleading, stale, or entirely fake listings with no penalty. Think needle in a haystack energy. Because job seekers never got a feedback loop, employers never learned what was broken, and platforms had no reason to care. Structural mismatch, there's a further structural mismatch. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics, fewer than 1 million people work in HR. Less than 1% of the conservative estimate of 80 million people in the labor force that's seeking work at any given time. That number comes from a variety of estimates that range from who you ask, from half the labor force to quarter to three-quarters to everyone. The lack of really any clear data on job seeker behavior is in and of itself a demonstration of the problem. That means over 95% of platform users are job seekers, yet none of the system is designed for the protection, which begs the question, why in the world do employers think they're getting good info either? Fancy platforms to show static because job seekers are receiving static. It's just fancy versions of static. Accurate data about widespread misinformation is still just misinformation. Think Airbnb with no user reviews, or being forced to use Uber where only the driver gets to say. Newspapers had to ensure both sides get accurate information. Modern job platforms only need to keep employers happy. That's just happy. That's it. Without a feedback loop for job seekers, misinformation becomes profitable, not problematic. It's fine if an employer sees talent as something to acquire, but when the market facilitator adopts that view and builds the system accordingly, that's when inversion begins. Cultural collapse. Imagine a restaurant manager upset about empty tables. If the servers bad-mouthed customers in front of him, you'd assume that culture was deeply broken. Only imagine what they'd say directly to customers when the boss isn't around. Now take a browse through LinkedIn. Notice the recruiters casually mocking candidates. We talk about job seekers as if they're incentivized to lie about the system, but ignore how incentivized recruiters are to deflect blame. They're literally paid to throw job seekers under the bus, because why would they be paid to support them? Oh yeah, you're right, I screwed up. What are we talking about? Of course they wouldn't say that. I'm not saying they've all done it. I'm saying, why are we throwing job seekers on the bus? It's illogical. Stakes of a broken system. This is the world's largest and most unethical magic claw machine. Anybody can tell. The AIs can all tell. The level of fuck up here is colossal. Colossal. 160 million people's access to food, clothing, shelter, and healthcare left to, and it's a series of 5-star restaurants that above all else must not be reviewed by people required to eat the food. You have a Bureau of Labor and Statistics, Department of Labor, FTC, and all of the state agencies, let alone Europe and all that. Everybody's access to food, clothing, shelter, and healthcare rests on the world's largest and most unethical magic claw machine, let alone the jobs of the people who are doing the thing. Oh my God, is that impressive fuck up. Job seekers aren't failed employees. They are unprotected consumers in the most fundamental market of working class life, financial safety. There's no farm anymore. There's no forest to hunt in. If this labor market is broken, you just don't have unemployment. You have mass instability, mass despair, and all of the symptoms that come with it that affects everything, including democratic stability. People do extreme things when they lose hope, not just for a moment, but for 9 years straight. That's 3,300 days, and at least one job seeker lifted, according to Jacobs and Coolin Business Insider, that last fall. And I got to tell you, I'm almost certain it's much worse than that, but we got that one for sure. They spend time, not money, to acquire access to the system, but the harm of many years of lack of financial safety, socioeconomic mobility, while most of society openly blamed and shamed you for it, the psychological trauma spread across tens of millions. 27.4 million, according to Harvard in 2021, in workers is no less profound. The breakdown of trust in a fundamental system is never a small thing. Digital platforms are accidentally reinforcing trust, but with the wrong stakeholders. When Amazon doesn't trust the labor market, Workday loses money. But when workers stop trusting the labor market, history doesn't reform, it erupts. French writers write classic like Les Miserables, Russian rulers lose their lives. I don't know if people noticed the cross-partisan support for Luigi Mangione's decision or the Army Choir singing to the president at the governor's ball last February. But there's a real question emerging about what kind of moment we're in. And if you didn't hear about it, that's not surprising. The system wasn't built to notice, it was built to suppress. The job applicant perspective. So while I started a solution, job applicant perspective, the first Yelp in the world that professionally mandated find out, even though health department, no FDA, and I'm proud of it. You don't have to believe one solution will fix it all. You shouldn't. It wouldn't. That's the point. What I'm doing is opening a door, giving the system a name so 10,000 people can see it more clearly and build 10,000 different answers in response. This isn't about owning the fix. It's about giving shape to the problem so we can all stop mistaking it for a personal failure. Genuinely, there's a question we need to confront. When job seekers and employees of the talent market generate money for an industry for years at a time, but only one of them has to get paid, doesn't it start to look an awful lot like a system we ended in the US in the 1860s? It's not the same, of course, but there are uncomfortably real financial, social, and democratic parallels. This time, the instability isn't single, visible demarcation. It's scattered in pockets across the country, precisely the way the internet would do it. You don't have to take my word for it. The question isn't necessarily whether I'm right. It's also, if such a thing were happening, would you have known? Realistically, if grocery stores were more profitable the longer the shoppers stayed hungry, wouldn't that be a national crisis? Is there a system to check if that's happening for job seekers? Why not? Who might benefit from there not being a system to check if one half of a marketplace felt the market was exhibiting profound untrustworthiness? It's not about villainy. It's about a design so flawed that it's invisible to the very people who created it. This is a moment we have to look reality in the face. We can honor that no one can know what they didn't know when they didn't know it. But when new information arrives, what do we do now? If this helped you see something a little clearer, run with it. Tell someone, build something, name what's broken. If you want to examine this further, do that. I claim no perfection. I just honor what my research, observation, and system thinking tells me. If you want to see the receipts, you can check out my SSRN. Yeah, we don't need a better interface. We need a new engine. The hiring system doesn't need a facelift. It needs a complete inversion of incentives. And that's what I'm building at the job applicant perspective. The website's built. Every time each person leaves a review, it builds up more. Because we're doing ghost job flagging, feedback from job seekers on hiring experiences, signal-based employer reputation tools. We're not gamifying hope. We're verifying reality. I don't build hope casinos. I build hiring solutions. If you're tired of screaming into the void, you're not the problem. The market design is. You want to do something about it? Head over to the job applicant perspective. It's not a magic fix. It's a trust layer, and we're building it from the ground up, one real review at a time. Thank you.